In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 4 separate gardening tips that'll one-up your gardening opportunity and experience. So in this video, let's get into it. So I know we all hate weeds. Weeds are some of the worst things that can happen. I have to weed all of this before I plant zucchini and other things later today because, yeah, I'm going to do a video probably in about a week for that. And unfortunately, one of the worst things that you could possibly have to come by is weeds. But what if I were to tell you the only weeds you have to weed after you install a weed blocker are only the ones in the holes that you've burned. So you have to burn holes into or cut holes. One of them is way more tedious than the other. And it's also easy to slide irrigation valves through these things. Not irrigation valves, irrigation pipes through those things. Weed block is pretty cool. There's a lot of companies you can buy from. I don't know any in particular, but that's just a couple tips. Next up, we got using compost. Now, not any ordinary compost, using chickens for compost. You can see how I'm sort of pointing at the chicken yard over there. I have a lot of chickens and I have a lot of videos about chickens, and a lot of people ask me, how do you combine chickens and gardening? It's so easy. You let them in the garden for fertilizer before you plant, and always clean their coop because that uses, you know, fertilizer that you can use for the garden about a year. It's really useful. I'd recommend them as long as you can get them. Next up, we got using irrigation systems. They're so tedious to set up, but once they're up, they work a lot. You have to connect them to your well, and you have to do a lot of other tedious things. I have a video that I posted about a year ago on this concept directly, and it's really useful to know this type of information for a multitude of reasons. So yeah, if you want to use irrigation valves, you don't have to water your garden anymore. It's really useful. However, if you don't feel like setting it up, you can use a pipe that has holes poked into it, and you can use that to water your garden using a hose pipe. That's a lot easier to set up, and that's what I'd recommend anyone to use in their first year of gardening. But by the time you reach a more advanced level in gardening, so second or third year, this is my 4th year here gardening, I would 100% recommend that. And finally, we got the last and final tip. Now, this tip is pretty simple, but a lot of people miss out on it. And it's using different plants as guard against animals that could help kill other plants. So basil is a good example of a protective plant for tomatoes. Unfortunately, this year's basil was destroyed by my cat, so we don't really have a basil harvest, but we will eventually, and it will be cool once that's all done. So yeah, 100% I would recommend basil to anyone, but there's also a lot of other things that you could use to keep things like deer and other things out of your garden. There's a lot of different things, and the most important one out of all of these is clicking the subscribe button and but yeah, but I'd still recommend doing it. The most important one is obviously basil because it keeps a lot of beetles out. But as I said, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.